Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place you come to when you need the dense stuff. Those strategic reports, complex policy papers, the real cutting-edge academic work distilled into something clear, usable, and, well, fascinating.
And today, we're tackling something huge. It's the synthesis of two massive forces that are absolutely going to shape, your career, the whole global economy, really, over the next decade.
Yeah, we're talking about the race for true artificial general intelligence, AGI, on one hand.
And on the other, this huge regulatory structure being built around AI right now, specifically in Europe. It's a collision course, in a way.
Okay, let's really unpack this. Our mission today is, well, it's pretty critical. We're pulling together insights from some really deep German research, specifically this government-funded Smart Eye Work project.
That's the one focused on white-collar work, yeah.
Exactly. And we're layering that right on top of the EU's brand new legal framework. We're talking the AI Act, the Data Act, the Data Governance Act, the whole package.
So the goal is to give you a really detailed forecast out to 2030. Specifically looking at how AI is set to transform those administrative, knowledge-based office jobs, what the Germans call Sachbearbeitung.
Right. And it forces us, as you said, to grapple with this duality.
It really does. Because you've got this, super theoretical, maybe far-off quest for AGI. It's the ultimate dream of computing.
The strong AI people talk about.
Precisely. But then, bam, you've got the immediate practical reality of what people call weak Kai. The system's already being rolled out in offices today.
And the sources we're looking at, they're very clear on this point.
Absolutely. They stress that if we want to navigate this responsibly, we need serious ethical guardrails. Things like verifiable transparency, real accountability.
And a focus on collective well-being, not just corporate profit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the future isn't just happening to us. It's being designed right now in these choices. And we need to understand who's holding the blueprint,
It's definitely a high-stakes conversation. So let's dive in. Okay, let's start at the top. The ultimate goal. AGI. Our source, KINU WS24, positions this as the peak of KI research. Help us get a handle on this. How is AGI really different from the AI we use every day? Like the language models, image generators.
Yeah.
They seem pretty powerful already.
That's a great starting point. The key difference is versatility, or maybe generality. AGI, artificial general intelligence, isn't just good at one thing, even if it's a complex thing.
Okay.
It's defined by its ability to tackle a wide variety of complex, real-world tasks.
Yeah.
And not just tackle them, but perform them with efficiency and effectiveness that's, comparable to human intelligence across the board. Or maybe even better.
So it's about flexibility, being able to learn completely new things.
Exactly. Generalization and flexibility. It's not just, say, mastering chess or writing code brilliantly within known parameters. It's the ability to learn a whole new domain, adapt to stuff it hasn't seen before, synthesize information from completely different fields.
The way a person can kind of pivot their thinking.
Precisely. Current specialized AI, even the really impressive large models, they're masters of their silo. Amazing at translation or predicting protein folding or whatever, but take them outside that box.
They fall apart.
Pretty much. They lack that general applicability. AGI is supposed to be the whole toolkit, ready for any problem you throw at it.
Right. So the big question everyone's asking is, how close are we?
Yes. The billion-dollar question, or maybe trillion-dollar. The source paper offers some fresh perspectives here. It argues that getting to AGI isn't just about more data and faster chips.
It's not just scale.
Not just scale, no. It argues we need really sophisticated, integrated capability frameworks. It's a structural challenge as much as a computational one.
Okay, integrated frameworks. What does that look like in practice? What needs integrating?
The research breaks it down into three crucial dimensions. First, there's the internal dimension. That's the core cognitive stuff, reasoning, problem-solving, learning.
The brain, so to speak.
Sort of, yeah. Then second, there's the interface dimension. How does this intelligence actually interact with the world? How does it perceive reality, which is often messy and unpredictable, whether physical or digital?
So sensors, data inputs, understanding context.
Exactly. And third, the system dimension.
Yeah.
How does the AGI fit into a larger structure? That could be a technical system or, importantly, human society. How does it stay stable, reliable, and, crucially, aligned with that broader system?
Wow. Okay, so it's not just about making it smart, it's about making it functional and safe within our world.
It becomes this incredibly complex challenge of coordination and alignment. You're building something potentially very powerful, and you need to ensure it actually works with us, not against us, even unintentionally.
It sounds less like pure computer science and more like, I don't know, philosophy meets engineering meets social science.
That's a really good way to put it. It absolutely is. And this brings us to a critical point the paper emphasizes: the immediate challenges we face now, even on the path towards AGI. Well, despite all the amazing progress in deep learning, the paper highlights a major gap. We need significant further development in what they call AGI alignment technologies.
Alignment, we hear that word a lot. Why is it so central, especially now?
Because the stakes get higher as the systems get more capable. Alignment basically means making sure the AI's goals and actions are consistent with human values, safety, and, well, what we actually want it to do.
Sounds simple, but probably isn't.
Oh, it's incredibly hard. Practically, what does it mean? It means building systems where we can actually verify what they're doing and why. Making them explainable, we need to understand how a critical decision was reached, not just get the output.
The black box problem.
Exactly. And establishing hard constraints. Guardrails. If you build something that can potentially learn and adapt across many domains, you absolutely must have guarantees about its behavior, especially its unintended consequences.
And this isn't a problem for someday when AGI arrives.
No. This is a design requirement for right now. The paper is clear. Building these ethical and safety frameworks isn't optional. It's a current mandate. If we screw this up early on, the risks just multiply exponentially down the line.
Okay. That sets the high-level technological ambition and its inherent risks. Now, let's ground this conversation. Let's talk about the immediate impact. Automation, especially in those white-collar administrative roles in Europe, particularly Germany. For years, this whole discussion was dominated by fear, wasn't it? Stemming from one really big prediction.
Ah, you must mean the Frey and Osborne study from back in 2013.
Yeah.
Yes, that one landed like a bombshell.
The 47% number.
That's the one. They projected that nearly half, 47% of U.S. jobs were at high risk of being computerized within, what was it, 10 to 20 years? That figure just echoed around the globe. It really set the tone for automation anxiety everywhere.
It absolutely dominated headlines, policy debates. But pretty quickly, other researchers, especially looking at European economies, started saying, hold on, maybe that number's too high.
Yes. Subsequent studies began to refine the picture. The consensus emerged that, for various reasons, 47% was likely an overestimation, particularly for economies structured like Germany's.
Why the difference? What did Frey and Osborne maybe get wrong, or what did later studies do differently?
Well, a key insight, highlighted in research like the ZEW analysis by Bonin, Gregory, and Zirin in 2015, was about the unit of analysis. Frey and Osborne looked primarily at entire occupations.
Like, is the job accountant automatable?
Exactly, but that's too broad. The intellectual shift that followed was to focus instead on individual tasks within a job. This is the task-based approach.
Okay, break that down. If you look at tasks instead of whole jobs, how does that change the automation risk picture?
It changes it dramatically, because most jobs aren't just one thing. They're a bundle of different tasks, some routine, some not. The literature generally identifies 5 main types of tasks.
Let's list them. This seems crucial for understanding that Sackbear-by-Tongue vulnerability.
All right, so first, you have analytical non-routine tasks. Think high-level strategy, research, complex problem-solving where you need judgment and synthesis.
Creative thinking, basically.
Yeah, or deep analysis. Second, interactive non-routine tasks. This is all about human interaction management, negotiation, consulting, complex sales. It relies on empathy, persuasion, understanding people.
Things that are hard for current AI.
Very hard. Then third, cognitive routine tasks. Now, this is the heartland of traditional Sackbear-by-Tongue. We're talking standardized paperwork, rule-based data processing, accounting, claims handling, tasks with clear rules and repetitive elements.
Highly automatable, you'd think.
Potentially, yes, because the rules can often be codified. Fourth, manual routine tasks. Simple, repetitive physical actions, like sorting things on an assembly line.
Already heavily automated in many sectors.
Indeed. And finally, fifth, manual non-routine tasks. These require complex physical dexterity, adaptability, often in unpredictable settings. Think intricate plumbing, bespoke construction work, repairing complex machinery on-site.
Okay, so applying this lens, a typical administrative job, a Sackbear-biter, isn't just doing cognitive routine tasks all day.
Exactly. That's the key insight. Most administrative roles are a mix. Yes, there's data entry and report generation, cognitive routine, but there's often also dealing with unusual client requests, coordinating with colleagues, solving unexpected problems, interactive non-routine, maybe even some analytical non-routine.
So when the ZEW researchers applied this task-based view to the German labor market, what happened to the risk percentage?
It dropped significantly. Instead of 47%, they estimated that only about 12% of German employees faced an extensive automation risk, meaning a very high proportion of their tasks were routine and potentially automatable.
12%. That sounds much less apocalyptic than 47.
It is less apocalyptic in terms of immediate mass unemployment, but, and this is a huge but, it absolutely does not mean the impact is small. It hides a massive structural shift that's already underway.
Explain that. If only 12% are at high risk, what's the big deal?
The big deal is polarization and skill transition. Even if entire jobs aren't vanishing overnight, the nature of work is changing drastically. Those cognitive routine tasks, they're being automated or simplified by AI.
So the demand for that specific type of work goes down.
Precisely. And what's left? The non-routine tasks. The analytical thinking, the complex communication, the creativity, those become more valuable. Demand for high-skill workers who excel at those tasks increases, and their wages tend to rise,
While demand for jobs heavy on routine tasks stagnates or falls.
leading to wage pressure or displacement for those workers. So the net job loss might be lower than feared, but you get this growing gap in the labor market, increased inequality, and a huge need for people to adapt and learn new skills.
The skill transition challenge, that's the real battleground here, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And that leads us perfectly into the Smart Eye Work project.
Right, so the German government funded the Smart Eye Work project precisely because of this looming skill transition, particularly in Sachbearbeitung.
Exactly. And their goal wasn't just to, analyze the problem and write another report predicting doom. Their mandate was Gestaltung.
Gestaltung, it means designing, shaping, forming. A very proactive word.
It is. They explicitly aim to move beyond just risk analysis and actually develop concrete, constructive options. How can we design future work profiles, specifically in these administrative roles, so that interacting with KI is productive, yes, but also humane?
Humane. What did that mean to them in practical terms?
They focused on creating work that is lernförderlich, meaning it supports learning and development. Jobs that are challenging enough to be engaging, but specifically designed not to be overwhelming or dehumanizing.
Finding that sweet spot.
Finding the sweet spot where AI doesn't just make the work cheaper, but actually makes the human job better, more meaningful, maybe higher value, not just optimizing for the corporation's bottom line.
And this immediately brings us back to that core tension we mentioned earlier, the fundamental choice in how AI is deployed in these roles.
Substitution versus augmentation. It really is the central axis.
Explain those two again in this context.
Sure. AI can be used for substitution, aiming to replace human tasks, especially the routine ones, primarily to cut costs and increase efficiency in a traditional sense.
Automating the task away.
Right. Or AI can be used for augmentation, aiming to support and enhance human capabilities, especially in knowledge-intensive work, helping people make better decisions, be more creative, handle more complex information, boosting productivity by making the human more capable.
And the Smart Eye Work study used this tension, this choice, as a key element in building their future scenarios.
It was fundamental to their methodology. And it's important to remember when they talk about KI, they're very grounded in the present and near future.
They weren't talking about hypothetical AGI.
No, their working definition was focused on what we typically call weak KI or narrow AI. They defined it as IT solutions or methods that can autonomously complete tasks that previously required human intelligence and dynamic decision-making.
And crucially, systems that can learn from work, data, or experience.
Exactly. So systems that are either already implemented or realistically foreseeable within that 5 to 10-year time frame up to 2030. It keeps the scenarios practical, not science fiction.
Okay. So how did they go about mapping these possible futures? They used a scenario methodology, right? Landkarte der Zukunft.
Yes, a map of the future. It was a pretty robust foresight process. They started by identifying 24 key influencing factors.
24. What kind of factors?
Oh, everything from the basics, like the pace of tech development itself, to things like typical corporate organizational structures, different models of data governance, standards for human-machine interaction, public perception, the role of the state. A really wide net.
And then they essentially played with the settings on those 24 factors.
Kind of. They used these factors to construct 6 distinct, alternative, but plausible future worlds for the year 2030. 6 different ways things could play out based on how these key factors evolve.
And to make sense of these 6 worlds, to really differentiate them, they focused on 2 overarching, really powerful dimensions that cut across those 24 factors.
Exactly. 2 main axes on their map. The first axis was all about the technology's impact on tasks, the substitution effect of KI, Ranging from low substitution, where AI mostly just takes over very simple routine tasks, all the way up to high substitution, where AI starts replacing complex cognitive work, maybe even some mid-level creative tasks.
Okay, that's the what the AI does axis. What was the second one?
The second axis was more structural, looking at the societal context, societal role of work, data sovereignty.
Data sovereignty. Who controls the data?
Exactly. This axis ranged from one pole representing the continuation of our current classic employment society, where work is central to identity and income, combined with low data sovereignty, meaning data is mostly locked up in private corporate silos.
For status quo, more or less.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And the other pole represented a radical shift towards a post-Erbers-Gesellschaft, a post-employment society, where traditional paid work becomes less central, maybe supported by things like basic income, combined with high data sovereignty, where data is more open, maybe controlled by individuals or public trusts.
Wow. So those two dimensions, how much AI substitutes tasks and who controls the data in societies, those are the key coordinates that define their 6 future worlds.
They are the fundamental drivers differentiating the scenarios.
Okay, before we dive into those 6 specific scenarios, let's make this more concrete. The study provided some really vivid, real-world examples of how this weak KI is already changing SAC bearer by tongue. Let's touch on those.
Yeah, these are great because they ground the discussion. Take customer service, a classic admin function. We're already seeing chatbots handle a significant chunk of standard queries, right?
Yes, definitely. The repetitive stuff.
The study mentions systems capable of autonomously resolving 30 to 40 common, standardized customer requests without any human intervention. That's direct substitution of routine cognitive work, freeing up human agents for more complex issues.
Okay, that's substitution. What about augmentation?
The contract analysis example is stunning. It involves tasks usually done by highly trained, expensive lawyers reviewing legal documents for risks and specific clauses, high precision needed. So they did a test. Specialized KI versus experienced human lawyers analyzing 5 NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. The results were, well, staggering.
How staggering.
The KI achieved 94% accuracy in identifying key clauses and risks. The human lawyers averaged 85% accuracy.
Okay, so slightly more accurate.
But get this, the KI did it in 26 seconds per contract. The humans took an average of 92 minutes per contract.
92 minutes versus 26 seconds? That's
It's astronomical efficiency gain. But here's the crucial point for augmentation. This doesn't necessarily mean you fire all the lawyers.
How so? What does the lawyer do then?
The KI acts like a superpowered paralegal or curator. It instantly flags everything important, highlights potential problems, finds anomalies. The human lawyer then focuses on the higher value work, interpreting the flagged issues in context, applying strategic judgment, negotiating terms, advising the client.
So the AI handles the exhaustive, time-consuming routine review, and the human handles the complex judgment and interaction.
Exactly. The drudgery is substituted. The strategic thinking is augmented. It makes the human lawyer far more productive.
Makes sense. Okay, another example. Maybe one that's more pure substitution.
Sure. Think about fraud detection in the insurance industry. This is where big data analysis really shines.
Ow.
Algorithms can sift through millions of claims and find patterns that are just invisible to humans. Things like multiple claims using slightly different versions of the same photo of damage, or subtle geographic clustering of suspicious claims.
Pattern recognition at massive scale.
Precisely. This kind of algorithmic pattern recognition can make a lot of the routine human work in claims processing simply redundant. It's substitution driven by the machine's ability to perceive patterns and data far beyond human capacity.
Got it. And one more recruitment. HR seems like a field ripe for this.
Very much so. The study points to major staffing firms like Randstad, already using algorithms for initial candidate screening and matching, going way beyond simple keyword searches.
What else are they doing?
It extends to things like analyzing video interviews, looking at speech patterns, facial expressions, or analyzing written responses using natural language processing to generate personality profiles, trying to assess a candidate's fit for a role automatically.
Wow. So automating that first pass filter, which is a huge cognitive routine task in HR.
Exactly. These examples really show how substitution and augmentation aren't abstract concepts. They're happening now, reshaping white-collar work task by task.
Okay, we've got the context, the task-based shifts, the substitution-augmentation dynamic, the real-world examples. Now, let's walk through those 6 scenarios from the Smart IO work study, using their 2 big axes, substitution level and data sovereignty role of work. Where do we start?
Let's start with the one the expert surveyed felt was closest to our current reality, The Gegenwart, that's scenario 1. Tryggheit scenario. The inertia or sluggishness scenario.
Inertia. Sounds stuck. What defines this future?
It's characterized by pretty slow, limited KI development. Consequently, the impact on work is also quite limited. The root cause. An isolated data world. Low data sovereignty.
Meaning data is stuck in silos, not shared, not easily used.
Exactly. Corporate data stays within the corporation, government data within the agency. There's no real ecosystem. Public perception of KI's importance is also low, maybe indifferent. So you only see substitution of the very simplest manual and cognitive routines.
What does that mean for the economy and work structure?
Well, you see maybe an increase in temporary or precarious employment, but no fundamental shift. The big downside, Europe becomes globally uncompetitive because other regions like the US and China are pushing ahead much faster with AI development and deployment.
So, seeming stability now, but long-term decline baked in. Okay, not ideal. Let's move to the scenarios the experts considered highly expected. What's the first of those?
Scenario 2, automation scenario. Automation in the classical corporate world. This aligns with traditional business schools.
Efficiency, cost-cutting.
Precisely. This scenario sees a strong focus on substitution, driven by large established corporations trying to optimize their existing processes. The KI here is high performance, but it tends to be domain-specific, good at one thing. And critically, it operates in that same isolated data world. Data is a proprietary asset to be hoarded.
And if the main driver is corporate efficiency, how does society view AI in this scenario?
Largely as a threat. Because the focus is substitution, you see significant replacement of routine /bear-by-tongue tasks. Management structures remain very traditional, centralized, maybe rigid, and the government, pretty passive. Low promotion of AI, low regulation. It leaves corporations largely free to automate for their own benefit.
This feels like the future many people feared after that Frey and Osborne paper, straight-up automation displacing workers.
It's a direct extrapolation of that line of thinking, yes.
Yeah.
Highly plausible if corporate efficiency remains the dominant logic.
Okay, expected scenario number 2.
Scenario 3, platform scenario. Global platforms drive automation. Here, the power shifts dramatically.
To the tech giant.
Exactly. Think Gata, Google, Amazon, Tencent, Alibaba. These monopoly-like global platform companies essentially dictate the rules of the game. They control the ecosystems.
Now, the study mentioned a paradox here. They use data very openly within their ecosystems, right? So you'd expect rapid innovation.
You would think so. They leverage vast amounts of data. But the paradox is, because they face relatively little competition due to their dominant positions, the actual pressure to innovate radically is lower.
So they optimize, but maybe don't invent as much.
That's the idea. KI learning is only moderately dynamic. They focus on refining their existing dominance rather than true breakthroughs. But the social consequences are severe.
Which are?
The normalization of the gig economy. Atypical work freelancing, short-term contracts, platform-mediated tasks becomes the standard for many. This often comes with poor social safety nets, high pressure, constant monitoring, and a fragmented workforce.
And what happens to Sacré-Batung here?
Strong substitution of simple and mid-level administrative tasks. Those displaced workers often have little choice but to enter this precarious gig world. It's a future of corporate dominance on a global scale with a potentially eroded social contract.
A pretty bleak picture. Okay, there's another highly expected scenario, which sounds a bit more complex. Scenario 4, ambivalent scenario. Dynamic KI, but trapped in the old work world. How does that work?
Yeah, this one is interesting. It's ambivalent, torn. On one hand, you have fast technological development. KI is becoming more powerful, more domain-spanning, closer to those AGI precursors. The potential is high. But this powerful KI development is happening within the confines of traditional corporate structures and management styles, much like Scenario 2, centralized control, resistance to fundamental change.
So the tech is racing ahead, but the organizations using it are lagging behind.
Kind of. And crucially, access to these advanced KI tools is limited. They're expensive, proprietary solutions developed by or for large corporations. Smaller businesses, individuals, they're largely shut out.
So innovation happens, but it doesn't diffuse widely.
Exactly. And this shapes how AI is used. You do see augmentation happening here, but it's primarily focused on efficiency improvement, making existing processes faster or cheaper, rather than enabling fundamentally new ways of working or boosting creativity and quality significantly.
Doing the same thing is just incrementally better.
Pretty much. One key difference from Scenario 2, though. In this ambivalent scenario, there's strong cooperation between the state and these large corporations. This helps Europe maintain or even improve its global competitiveness against the GATA platforms. And socially, traditional full-time jobs remain the ideal, the aspiration, even though temporary work is increasing in practice.
Okay, so scenarios 1 through 4 paint pictures ranging from stagnation to corporate-driven automation, platform dominance, or this kind of conflicted, uneven progress. Now we get to the scenarios the experts found both highly expected and highly desired.
Right. This is where things get more optimistic, more focused on Gestalten. Let's start with scenario 5, transformation scenario. KI creates new work worlds in a dynamic network.
Transformation. Sounds promising. What's driving this?
Here, KI is actively leveraged not just for profit, but for broader societal goals. Specifically, it's used to drive a transition towards a more sustainable circular economy.
Ah, so linking AI to environmental and resource efficiency goals.
Yes, it shifts the narrative. Technology isn't just a tool for optimization, it's a tool for solving big societal problems. There's a general public trust in KI's potential here.
What about data access and technology?
Interestingly, data sovereignty is still rated relatively low, similar to the current state. But access to KI tools is high. Think simple, affordable, cloud-based AI applications available to almost everyone, not just big players.
Democratization of AI tools.
Exactly. And this enables deep structural change. Yes, there's substitution of even complex bare-bone tasks, but, and this is key, it happens alongside the emergence of entirely new, augmented job profiles.
Like what? Give us an example of a job that exists in scenario 5 but not today.
The study suggests roles like resource efficiency managers. These would be people using sophisticated KI tools to analyze and optimize complex supply chains, manage material flows across networks, minimize waste, tasks that are too complex without AI assistance.
So AI takes over some work but also creates new, higher-level work.
Precisely. And the nature of work itself changes. It becomes more flexible, more network-based. And importantly, this transition is cushioned by a key social policy, a universal basic income for everyone.
Basic income, that's a big step.
It is. In this scenario, it's envisioned at a relatively low level, more of a safety net to manage the disruption and provide basic security as the labor market transforms. It's deliberate social engineering to make the transition feasible.
Okay, scenario 5 sounds like a managed positive transition. What about the final one, the most radical vision?
Scenario 6. Vision scenario. KI as problem solver on the path to the post-employment society. This goes beyond 2030, envisioning a really fundamental shift.
Post-employment society, what does that actually mean?
It means the societal importance of traditional paid work dramatically decreases. This is driven by massive productivity gains from advanced KI, coupled with a shift in societal values towards post-materialism people, valuing time, creativity, community over just income and consumption.
A huge cultural shift needed there.
Absolutely. And it requires specific structural foundations. You need an open knowledge society and, critically, high data sovereignty. Data isn't locked away. It's a shared resource, maybe managed by public trusts.
And how is the society funded if fewer people are doing traditional jobs? Where does the money for basic needs come from?
From that massive KI-driven productivity. This scenario envisions a universal basic income at a high level enough for genuine dignity and full participation in society.
Okay, but how do you pay for a high UBI?
Two main sources are proposed. First, taxing passive income from financial assets, investments, rents. Second, and this is really revolutionary, implementing a non-KI productivity gain tax, which they call KIPA.
KIPA. Break that down. What is a non-KI productivity gain tax?
It's a way to capture the value created by automation itself. The idea is, if a company uses KI to significantly boost output while reducing human labor, a portion of that new productivity gain, the part generated purely by the non-human system, is taxed.
So you're taxing the robot's output, essentially.
In a way, yes. It decouples government revenue, and thus the funding for social programs like UBI from the number of people employed. It directly links the benefits of automation back to society as a whole, not just to the owners of the capital or the AI. It's a fundamental rethinking of how we distribute the fruits of technological progress.
That's fascinating. And in this world, with a high basic income, what does work even look like for humans?
It shifts dramatically. The scenario predicts a freelancer project world. People work, but likely as self-employed individuals or in fluid project-based networks. And the type of work, it's almost pure augmentation.
Meaning all the routine stuff is gone?
Pretty much eliminated.
Wow.
What's left is the high-level, unique, creative, problem-solving work that machines can't replicate. Designing, strategizing, complex human interaction, artistic creation.
So augmentation takes center stage. Let's talk more about that. How does it work, and what are the downsides? The study mentioned K-stress.
Right. Augmentation, at its best, is this incredible expansion of human intelligence through machine interaction. Think of an architect using generative design tools.
How does that work?
The architect sets parameters, budget, materials, site constraints, desired aesthetics. The KI then generates potentially thousands of viable design options, handling all the complex calculations for structural integrity, energy efficiency, material optimization, stuff that would take humans ages.
So the AI does the heavy lifting, the complex calculations.
Exactly. It removes the drudgery, the repetitive calculation, and modeling. The human architect's role shifts. They become the curator, the synthesizer, applying high-level judgment, aesthetic sensibility, ethical considerations to select, refine, and combine the best elements from the KI's suggestions.
Sounds great. Where does the stress come in?
The stress K-stress, or creativity stress, comes from the fact that the only thing left for the human to do is the unique, innovative, high-value part. There's no more routine work to kind of buffer the cognitive load.
Ah, so the pressure is always on to be brilliant, to deliver that unique insight.
Precisely. You're constantly operating at the peak of your creative or analytical capacity. There's no mental downtime doing the simpler stuff. The demand is relentless innovation and judgment. That constant pressure to be uniquely valuable is the new occupational hazard in this augmented post-routine world.
Okay, we've journeyed through these 6 potential futures. It seems clear the desired ones, scenarios 5 and 6, require really intentional choices, high data sovereignty, human-centric design.
While the business as usual or purely profit-driven paths, scenarios 2, 3, and 4, lead towards outcomes, most people find less desirable corporate dominance, precarious work, social anxiety.
Which brings us squarely back to that concept of Gestaltung, shaping the future. And the main tool societies have for shaping things is regulation and governance.
Absolutely. And the source material, especially the academic conclusions, are really forceful on this point. They argue that leaving KI development purely to market forces, uncontrolled, is almost guaranteed to lead us down those less desirable paths, particularly scenario 3, the platform dominance one.
So intervention is seen as necessary.
Essential. The argument is that the trajectory must be actively steered and anchored in those robust ethical guardrails we talked about: transparency, accountability, fairness. This requires political will and effective governance structures.
But as the sources also point out, that's not the reality today, is it? Who's really driving AI development right now?
Overwhelmingly, it's global corporations. They have the resources, the data, the talent. The desired future, according to the research, requires a significant shift in that power dynamic. It needs broad steering involving nation-states, international bodies, civil society groups, not just corporate boardrooms.
And this is where Europe's big legislative push comes in, this comprehensive package, the AI Act, the Data Governance Act, the Data Act. It's Europe's attempt to actually do that steering, right, to create an alternative model.
That's exactly the ambition. It's a conscious effort to chart a different course from, say, the more laissez-faire approach in the U.S. or the state-controlled approach in China. The European model emphasizes human rights, democratic values, and trying to ensure technology serves people. We really need to unpack these key pieces of legislation.
Let's start with the big one, the cornerstone, the AI Act. What's its main job? How does it try to control AI?
Its main focus is setting rules for how AI systems are placed on the market, put into service, and used within the EU. And the absolute core of it is a risk classification system.
But first they had to define what counts as an AI system for the law to even apply, right? That sounds tricky.
It was very tricky. They needed a definition broad enough to be future-proof, but specific enough to avoid capturing simple software. They landed on defining an AI system as something machine-based that operates with varying degrees of autonomy.
Okay.
That is adaptive, meaning it can learn or adjust after deployment. And this is key. They can infer information from the inputs it receives to produce outputs. And those outputs, predictions, recommendations, decisions, content, affect physical or virtual environments.
Why that level of detail? Why the inference part?
Because that helps distinguish it from older, more static automation. It captures systems that exhibit that dynamic learning, decision-making quality we associate with AI, while excluding, say, a simple spreadsheet macro or a basic rules-based expert system.
Got it. So if a system fits that definition, it falls into one of their risk categories.
Yes, 4 main categories, each with different rules attached. It's a tiered approach.
Let's go through them, maybe starting with the most severe.
Okay. Top level is unacceptable risk. These are AI applications considered fundamentally incompatible with EU values and rights. Things like government-run social scoring systems, or AI designed to subliminally manipulate vulnerable groups, or real-time remote biometric identification in public spaces with very narrow exceptions.
And the consequence for these?
They are simply prohibited, banned outright from the EU market.
Clear enough. What's the next level down?
This is the big one for most businesses. High risk. This category covers AI systems used in contexts where they could significantly impact people's safety, fundamental rights, or life chances.
Like what kind of contexts?
A whole range. Critical infrastructure, energy grids, water supply, medical devices, systems used in law enforcement and justice. And really relevant to our discussion today, AI used in employment, worker management, and access to self-employment.
So algorithms for hiring, firing, promotion, task allocation?
Exactly. Also, AI used to determine access to essential services like credit scoring or insurance eligibility, and AI used in education like automated exam proctoring or grading. These all fall under high risk.
And if your AI system is classified as high risk, what hoops do you have to jump through?
Significant ones. This triggers the most intensive regulatory scrutiny. Before you can launch or use such a system, it needs to undergo a rigorous conformity assessment, meaning you need extensive documentation proving compliance with a whole set of requirements. Things like robust data governance, high levels of accuracy and cybersecurity, detailed technical documentation, ensuring human oversight is possible, record keeping. It's a major compliance effort.
And if you don't comply?
The penalties are designed to be severe, potentially millions of euros or a significant percentage of global turnover. The message is clear. For high-risk applications, safety, fairness, and transparency must be built in from the start. No cutting corners.
Okay, that's high risk. What about the lower tiers?
Below high risk is limited risk. These are systems where the main risk is manipulation or deception, but not severe harm. The classic example is a chatbot.
What are the rules for chatbots?
Primarily transparency obligations. Users have to be clearly informed that they are interacting with an AI system, not a human. Same goes for deepfakes generated or manipulated content must be disclosed as artificial.
Makes sense. And the lowest level?
Minimal risk. This covers the vast majority of AI applications, things like AI-enabled spam filters, inventory management systems, or AI in video games. For these, the Act imposes basically no new legal obligations, though it encourages voluntary codes of conduct.
So it's really focused on preventing the worst harms and regulating those critical high-stakes applications.
That's the core idea, risk-based regulation.
Now, all that high-risk compliance sounds like it could stifle innovation, especially for small companies. Did the EU include anything to help with that?
Yes, that's a crucial point. They introduced the concept of AI regulatory sandboxes, or real Laboren, as they're known in Germany.
Sandboxes, like a safe space to play.
Exactly. These are controlled environments set up by national authorities where companies, especially startups and SMEs, can develop and test innovative high-risk AI systems for a limited time under regulatory supervision before going through the full conformity assessment.
What's the benefit?
It gives them a chance to experiment and get guidance from regulators in a lower-risk setting. It increases legal certainty. If they follow the plan agreed with the supervisor in the sandbox, they're generally shielded from administrative fines during that testing phase, although they're still liable if their AI causes actual harm.
And these sandboxes also help address a huge technical challenge for AI development, right? Getting access to data, especially sensitive data, for training models.
They do. The AI Act contains specific provisions allowing for the processing of personal data, even sensitive categories like health data, for the purpose of developing and testing certain high-risk AI systems within these supervised sandboxes.
That sounds like an exception to GDPR rules.
It's a carefully crafted one. It's only allowed if the bias detection and correction goals cannot be achieved using anonymized or synthetic data, and it's subject to extremely strict data protection safeguards and ethical oversight within the sandbox framework. But yes, it's designed to give European innovators access to the kind of real-world data needed to build competitive AI, particularly in areas like health or public safety.
Okay, so the AI Act governs the systems themselves. What about the data fueling these systems? That brings us to the other pieces of legislation.
Exactly. You need data governance alongside AI governance. The first part of that is the Data Governance Act, DGA.
What's its main goal?
The DGA has two main aims. First, to make it easier and safer to reuse certain categories of data held by public sector bodies. Think anonymized health data for research, or transport data. It tries to harmonize the rules and conditions for access across the EU.
Okay, unlock public data. What's the second aim?
To regulate a new type of entity, data intermediation services.
Data intermediaries, like data brokers.
Not exactly brokers who trade data for profit. The DGA defines these intermediaries as neutral third parties whose purpose is to facilitate data sharing between data holders and data users. Think data marketplaces operating under strict neutrality rules, or data trusts managing data on behalf of individuals, or platforms that help create secure data spaces for specific industries.
So creating trusted middlemen to help data flow more easily and securely.
That's the idea. To foster a data sharing ecosystem built on trust and EU rules, rather than letting the big platforms dominate data flows entirely.
All right. And the final piece of the puzzle, the Data Act, DA. This one sounds like it could be really disruptive.
Oh, it has huge potential implications, especially for the Internet of Things, IoT, and any smart connected product. Its core goal is about fairness in the data economy, specifically regarding the data generated by the use of these products.
Like data from my smart thermostat or my connected car or industrial machinery on a factory floor.
Exactly that. The Data Act establishes a fundamental right for the user of such a product, whether that's an individual consumer or a business, to access the data generated by their use of that product.
Access it from whom? The manufacturer.
Usually, yes, from the data holder, which is typically the manufacturer who designed the product to collect that data. This includes data the user actively provides, but also data generated passively as a byproduct of the device's operation, sensor readings, diagnostic codes, usage logs, environmental data like temperature.
And the manufacturer has to just hand it over.
They have to make it accessible to the user easily, electronically, free of charge, and where relevant, continuously and in real time. The user then also has the right to instruct the data holder to share this data with a third party of their choice.
Wow. That seems massive for competition. Think about car repairs, for example.
Absolutely. Right now, often only the car manufacturer has access to the detailed diagnostic data from the car's computers. That gives them a huge advantage, locking out independent repair shops. The Data Act aims to break that lock-in.
So I could take my car's data and give it to my local independent mechanic.
That's the principle. It empowers users and aims to foster competition in aftermarket services, repairs, and related innovative services built on that device data. It prevents manufacturers from creating closed data ecosystems around their products.
But surely manufacturers will argue this forces them to reveal trade secrets or undermines their R&D.
That's the crucial balancing act. The Data Act includes important safeguards for trade secrets, and critically, the right to access specifically excludes derived data.
Derived data? What's that?
Derived data means information that the manufacturer has created from the raw data through their own analysis, algorithms, or processing. For example, if a manufacturer uses sensor data from thousands of turbines to build a sophisticated predictive maintenance model.
That model itself, or the specific insights it generates, are protected.
Exactly. That derived data, representing the manufacturer's intellectual effort and investment, remains their property and generally doesn't have to be shared. But the underlying raw sensor data that fed into the model, that's what the user has the right to access and share.
So it's trying to find that line, enable competition based on the raw data, while still protecting the manufacturer's investment in analyzing that data.
Precisely. It's a really complex but potentially transformative piece of legislation aimed at rebalancing data power in the age of connected devices. Hashtag tag outro.
Okay. We have covered a massive amount of ground. From the ultimate dream of AGI to the nitty-gritty of task-based automation and the intricate web of EU regulations trying to shape it all.
We have. And pulling it all together, what do we see? The smart ironwork scenarios show us the Gegenwart, the present, is kind of sluggish, dominated by inertia and traditional corporate logic, like scenarios 1 and 2.
But the expectation, among the experts at least, is for much more rapid, disruptive change heading towards 2030. Pushing us towards those more turbulent scenarios, maybe 2, 3, or 4, where automation bites harder and social tensions rise.
Exactly. And the crucial takeaway, I think, is that the desired future scenarios 5 and 6, the ones focused on transformation, sustainability, post-employment possibilities, they require things like high data sovereignty, open access to tools, and really conscious, human-centric design choices.
Which stand in pretty stark contrast to the current reality of corporate data control and efficiency-driven automation.
Fundamental contradiction, really, which means getting to those better futures won't happen by accident. It requires deliberate effort, deliberate Gestaltung.
And the core challenge, as you laid out earlier, maybe isn't necessarily stopping mass job losses overnight, but managing that intense skill transition and consciously designing the human-machine interaction. Pushing for augmentation over just blind substitution.
That's the heart of it. And underlying that is the power struggle over data. Who controls it? Who benefits from it? Will it be the global platforms maximizing their reach, as in scenario 3?
Or will the kind of regulatory framework Europe is building, trying to enforce access rights, ethical boundaries, transparency, actually succeed in steering things towards a more equitable, human-centric outcome, like scenario 5 or 6? That seems to be the trillion-dollar
It
question.
really is. And the sources offer this quite sobering historical parallel.
The agricultural revolution comparison.
Yes, some experts predict this period, maybe up to 2035, will see structural changes in work and society on a scale comparable to the industrialization of agriculture after World War II, a transformation that took decades and fundamentally reshaped everything.
That really puts the pressure on getting the next steps right.
The need for action is immediate. Der Handlungsbedarf besteht jetzt. You can't wait. Which leads us, I think, to a final provocative thought for you, our listeners, to mull over.
Given everything we've discussed, the immense potential of AI, the starkly different future scenarios, the regulatory tools Europe is putting in place like the AI Act's risk categories, the Data Act's access rights, even the theoretical potential of things like KEPA taxes and basic income.
And given that the most desired future, with open data and strong societal steering, seems fundamentally opposed to the current reality of corporate dominance and low data sovereignty.
What single concrete act of proactive social or regulatory design, if we could implement just one thing right now, would give us the maximum leverage? The biggest push toward ensuring we navigate this transition successfully, toward that more flexible, human-centric, maybe even post-materialistic work future, and away from the gravitational pull of platform monopolies and deepening inequality.
You have to move now. What's the one intervention that can most effectively bend the curve before inertia or vested interest lock us into a less desirable path for the next generation of workers? Something to think about.